Hello, everybody. We have Ryder with us tonight, and we've been looking forward to this. Another one of Lala's amazing, intuitive invites. She's a miracle worker, and Ryder is a filmmaker, director, actor, and on Raised by Giants podcast. That is your podcast, right?
Yes, sir, it is. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Or tell our audience all the things you can think to tell them about you and your work.
Well, that's kind of a long story, but thanks for having me on. Obviously, really appreciate it. And I'm streaming this to my audience as well. So they're getting a little bonus treat this week. So welcome, anybody listening over there on Raised by Giants on YouTube. Yeah, so I basically started this channel in around 5 years ago at the end of 2020. And because I'd had a big awakening by watching I've talked about this several times, by watching the movie Zeitgeist in the early 2000s, and it kind of broke everything down, the religious, the monetary system. And we're seeing right now at this current moment how fallible the monetary system is, and 9/11 and all that stuff. So it kind of just was this heavy hitting thing, like that a lot of people experience whenever they realize, oh wow, a lot of this stuff is a lot of nonsense and made up garbage, and we're basically living a lie. And that kind of took me down a path, and then all that information kind of imploded upon itself. And then later on, I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do, what I really enjoyed, what I really loved, and is obviously talking with people and having a really good conversation about things that people may not. I mean, this community has become super popular, like the truther community and the conspiracy community, and ufology has become really popular in the years after that. But I was kind of got the tail end of it becoming more into mainstream. So here we are, and I've made two films. I've made JFKX, Solving the Crime of the Century, which is on Amazon Prime and Tubi, and my most recent documentary, A Clockwork Shining, Kubrick's Odyssey 3, is also on Amazon Prime as well. And if you can't get it on Amazon Prime, you can get it on Vimeo. So a little quick background.
We can get that on. I'm definitely going to watch it because, whoa, what a Kubrick fan I am of everything but Eyes Wide Shut.
That's a really strange. It's a really strange movie, Eyes Wide Shut, and there's a lot of theories and a lot of speculation, a lot of symbolism in there too, Freemasonic symbolism. We talk about it in our movie, all the Freemason symbolism, the seven-pointed star. Just in general, how I mean, it's kind of about a secret society, right? And that's controlling and manipulating things behind the scenes, and then Kubrick dies of a heart attack before the film is released. So it's kind of gone down in history as one of those classic Kubrick films. But
I thought just a quick comment. I thought his The Shining was a well done movie. I got mad with him for changing the ending. Very upset with it.
Well, there was an original ending, but he cut it out. So there was an original ending where Danny and Wendy wakes up in the hospital, and Ullman comes in to visit Wendy in the hospital, and basically explains to Wendy that everything that she's explained to the police officers didn't really happen. They couldn't find any evidence of anything like that happening. And then then he throws the tennis ball to Danny, and he's like, "Oh, hey, why don't you guys come to my place in LA to stay with me?" And then
the Scatman Crothers character dies in the movie, but he's on the dock with Danny, calling him Doc and helping him learn to shine at the end of the book. That was a great ending.
Well, that is what kind of happens at the beginning of Doctor Sleep. And the movie version, if you watch the movie Doctor Sleep, that's the beginning opening scene of Doctor Sleep is Scatman on the bench talking to Danny about The Shine.
Yeah, I loved it. I love that is my second favorite Stephen King book. My first favorite is The Stand.
The Stand is really good too. I didn't read the actual book, but I watched the series and I really enjoyed the series. Under the Dome is really good as well.
Yes, The Stand is 1,000 pages of marvelous.
Oh my God, it's so long. I couldn't keep my attention that long with a book.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, so just a common thing between us is I lived in New Jersey when the towers were struck. I got in my car and drove because I'm a radio operator, and I operated right at ground zero in a school for the Red Cross, arranging logistics and all of that stuff for the firemen and the policemen and other first responders. And oh my goodness, it was rough.
Oh, I could imagine all the chaos and people not knowing exactly what's going on, buildings falling, building 7 falling with nothing ever hitting it.
And I was crazy. You know, I didn't know how stable the American Express Tower was, but I and 2 firefighters went right to the top, knocked a window out, and put an antenna out.
Can I don't know, I should ask, but we probably agree on the same thing. What do you think actually happened? What's your opinion on 9/11? Can we ask that? Or is that
Of course you can. We're a conspiracy show.
I think it was a setup. Inside setup, personally. I think there's just too many weird things that happened. But anyway.
I don't know, but I would really like Trump to release the 9/11 files. Like, why doesn't he release the 9/11 files? He says that he's going to release the Trump files, the RFK files, the Martin Luther King Jr. files. You might as well drop the 9/11 files as well.
Right.
Well, got my fingers crossed for that one, but there's so many inconsistencies and things that they just completely covered up. Like, the big one is the passports falling out of somehow everything burned up and everything collapsed, but somehow they found the passports of the hijackers. Those passports somehow survived. It's just a bunch of different sketchy things that make you believe that it was something other than what it is. And then if we know anything about war, they will literally do anything to take people into war, because war is money and it's money for the bankers. So was it an inside job? Could possibly be. Was it a way to create something in order to get us in the war, to get us into Afghanistan, and making these lies up about weapons of mass destruction? And we have that in our documentary, A Clockwork Shining, how many times President Bush said weapons of mass destruction. That's literally all that came out of his mouth for years and years and years. Biological weapons, weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons. It's a string, it was a compilation of it in the documentary, A Clockwork Shining, on Amazon Prime. And it's just, we know that these certain events, if the event isn't 100% manipulated, and I mean, there's several of them, like the Gulf of Tonkin incident, like, is a complete 100% fabrication to get us into the Vietnam War. It seems like that these events coincide with us getting into some big altercation with another country. And that's what we're kind of realizing now with this USAID stuff, is that we're essentially paying off all these other countries to essentially play ball with us. Here's 10 trillion dollars, which is exaggerated, right? But $10 million, whatever you wanted to, and you got to play ball. And here, we'll give you a list of these rules that you need to follow in order for us not to completely just create political instability and create an uprising in your country. And if you don't follow all these rules to change your government, then that's exactly what's going to happen. So there's many levels to it. It's not only like a buy off and like play ball with us, but it's also like a money laundering. There's so many different things to the USA thing, and it's not just one thing. And that's another thing that a lot of these the governments and the corporations and the 3-letter agencies, people can try and pin down one thing that it is, but it's not just solely that one thing. There's multiple levels to it. There's many branches to the snake. There's many tentacles to the octopus, if you will.
Yep. Let me answer this question. Philip, we'll cover that another time, but Chris Bledsoe and I are very close and dear friends. I'm not a scientist where Chris Bledsoe is concerned. I'm a friend. So anyway, let's go back to you. You got a bunch of people here wanting to say hello to you from your side.
How's it going, Pamela? Good to see you.
So
Scotty Boy's in there. Loretta, good to see you guys.
yeah, and let me keep going so your folks can
Scotty
talk to you.
Boy. Yeah.
All right. So your what piece of media are you working on now? What do you got planned that you can tell us about?
I have a few things in the works right now. I'm going to be working on Jay Widener's documentary on the plasma universe. I'm going to be editing and putting that together. And then I have my own type of thing in the works that's more than likely going to be based off of remote viewing and the Psychic Spy Stargate program done by the
Right.
DIA and Army Intelligence.
Great topic. Yeah, we are Simeon Hine trained remote viewers.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating and interesting topic. And when you dive into the government's aspect and exactly what it was that they're doing, it's so convoluted, all the name changes, all the different companies and the people that were funneling in money into funding all of these programs, and Army Intelligence being involved, CIA being involved, CIA essentially funding SRI International and DIA. Army Intelligence. It's just like a giant, like a cryptogram that you got to decipher to try and figure out exactly where everything is. But that's another issue is with Trump's supposed Stargate AI system. It's going to make it even harder for people to figure out the Stargate stuff. But I've done a whole breakdown of the Stargate program, and I've had several of the people that were officially in the Stargate remote viewing unit at Fort Meade on my channel, including Dr. David Morehouse, Dr. Paul Smith, Lynn Buchanan, Dale Graff, which was the guy that actually coined the term Stargate and made it that name, because there were several names that it was before that. It was Center Lane, Sunstreak, Grill Flame, and then it ended up at Stargate in the early 90s. And then the CIA was supposed to take it over, and then the CIA got all the files and all the documents and basically closed the program down. So it shut down in 95, and then it became declassified shortly after, I believe, in around 2003.
Well, there are quite a few corporations which serve the needs of the intelligence community, and they produce intelligence product using a remote viewing. So it gives them 1 degree of separation from actually how it works. And I spent 20 something years on and off of the large buildings on the Fort Meade campus. So I've been there, done that.
Yeah, and I think that the program has evolved into something way more nefarious. Like it started out as a data and intelligence collection method on foreign targets and on foreign assets. But I think just as they found out that remote viewing can be used for other things, like Ingo Swan's remote viewing practice, there's this very advanced form of remote viewing that's called perfect site integration, where you can remote view an area and it's like you're literally there, and you can interact with the environment, and you can move things around and like push things off of the table, push things off of the desk, and you can literally do that. It's like almost like bilocation, like you're bilocating your actual body to another destination, and you're able to move things around, which then gives a completely different definition to the paranormal topic, right? Because what if this isn't, people that have passed away? What if this isn't like some kind of repeat? What if this is like the activity that people are experiencing are from literal living human beings that are somehow bilocating their essence into your house or wherever and just messing with your stuff, which is a really interesting angle.
I woke up, so I regularly sleep with a mask on, and I woke up and I could see the room with a mask on. And then I saw this man's face in front of me, and I could see the room behind him. And I knew who the man was and the room at Fort Meade where he was. So that was.
Tell them you're retired too.
Yeah, that's kind of obvious. I'm a retired intelligence person. So anyway.
He gets messed with sometimes.
I do a little bit. So, and today we're getting ready for the show, and we're in our bedroom, and the top drawer comes out and shakes a bag. So we put up with his stuff like all the time.
I I like it. I like.
It doesn't scare us, but welcome to our world.
No, it scares the shit out of me sometimes. But
Well, it takes on a different meaning when it's not so mysterious as, you know, a spirit or an entity, which I'm not discounting the idea that maybe there is some kind of spiritual entity component or aspect to it, because I've seen some really strange and weird things in some areas that, you know, why would someone be randomly remote viewing this house, you know what I mean, where all these people are seeing stuff. So I'm not discounting the fact or the idea that maybe some of the activity could revolve around some sort of disembodied spirit or some kind of, you know, demonic, quote unquote demonic activity that some people might be experiencing. But I think that it brings another level to it when you consider this perfect site integration thing that Ingo Swan was talking about, that Lynn Buchanan talks about, that this idea of bilocation and essentially like astral projection, but astral projecting in a physical body that you're able to literally create outside of the physical body that you're currently in. And some people feel that might be
a little worried about physical effects on this external physical body. So me, I would prefer to have an energy body. And Loretta asked, and I'm just going to tell you one thing I know you can do. Almost everybody I know that has gone to the Monroe Institute and gone through their training does OBEs before they leave. Almost everyone I know.
Yeah, that's another thing that's kind of wrapped up in the Stargate project as well. And people kind of confuse those two in a way, because the Monroe Institute had a program under a very similar name. It was called the Gateway program, and people get that confused with the Stargate program. And that's where some people have claimed to be a part of the Stargate project that was never a part of the program. I have the list of all the names that was a part of this program. So people that are claiming to be a part of the program, I can tell you if they were or they weren't. Yeah. I have the declassified documents that explicitly state exactly who was in these programs and who wasn't. But I think some people are getting confused because a lot of people have been through those Monroe Institute Gateway programs, which the Monroe Institute is to essentially have an out-of-body experience. And the DIA Army Intelligence was interested in those programs and actually paid the Monroe Institute $5,000 to take some of their Army personnel to go to Monroe Institute to see if this would be beneficial for them to be able, if it would help them with their remote viewing. And also reportedly in Fort Meade, at the unit in Fort Meade, they had the Monroe tapes, the binaural beats in like a cassette player that some of the remote viewers would supposedly, it hasn't been confirmed, so it's, you know, one of those things as a he said she said thing, which is kind of what it's like talking with a lot of the people that were a part of these programs, that they would use to get them into that relaxed state, that remote viewing state, so it makes the transition smoother.
Yeah, exactly. So the nice thing, it's safe, well trained, people who have a ton of experience, and they help you avoid the pitfalls, etc. So I think it's a good thing. And Bob Monroe and his audiologists and engineers, etc., they worked really hard, because Bob Monroe was very, very convinced in the beginning that he was insane, and found out he wasn't, then dedicated his life to studying it, and here we go. That's a great place.
Yeah, that one gentleman that was recently on Joe Rogan, that was kind of essentially, well, he says that he was Bob Monroe's, like, essentially his right-hand man and knew him really well. And
you mean Ed Dames?
No, that wasn't Ed Dames. It was this, I can't think of his name. I'm about halfway through the podcast, but he's essentially talking about how he realized that he was leaving his body and having an out-of-body experience every single night. And that's exactly like what Bob Monroe was experiencing. So they kind of teamed up together. And he said that he was a computer programmer, you know, back in the day, way back in the day when everything was like analog and you actually had to like program to the computer. And he said that he went to a meditation class one time and he sat down and he did a meditation, and then he was able to see all the mistakes in the code during his meditation. that would take him hours and hours and days and probably weeks and maybe months to figure out all the errors in the code that he was programming the computer with. And he was seeing exactly where all the errors were in his programming when he would meditate. So he was essentially saying that he was outside of his body and he was getting all this information from this infinite data field that's all around us at all times. And he was pulling it from the ether, and then he would be able to go and fix. I mean, this is on Joe Rogan. He's talking about this stuff. And then he would be able to go and fix the mistakes that he had in his code.
It wasn't Paul Smith, was it?
No, I've had Paul Smith on before.
Okay.
This guy wasn't a remote viewer.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Oh, yeah. Skip. You're talking about Skip.
No, it wasn't Skip Atwater. He was on. That was Sean Ryan.
Well, Skip was a manager. He wasn't a remote viewer.
That's right. I'll try and find his name. It's not. It was back a couple of weeks ago. Thomas Campbell.
Yeah, Loretta figured it out for us.
Yeah, Thomas Campbell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta. Hey, that's great. Okay, so have you had UFO experiences?
Well, I think I might actually have a video of something that let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and present it. If you want
I've
to.
shown it on my show a couple of times. But yes, I mean, I've seen something that I don't know exactly what it is, and I don't know. You know, people say, "Oh, it's definitely a UFO or whatever," but I mean, nobody really knows what any of this stuff is, and anyone that tells you that they do know what it is, they're full of shit. You know, like they don't know what it is.
Exactly.
Well, I thought I had it on here.
Yeah, I just want to say something. Not on time. I have ADD, so everybody, you're welcome. I just learned today that people think, and it might be true, that the emojis that we use, like the smiley face and such, is actually sigils from, was it 33 something of Solomon, Keys of Solomon?
Keys of Solomon.
It's sneaky stuff they put in. In other words, they try to sneak in not great things, and we're calling it to us. I like that. It was a good conspiracy, but it took me down the rabbit hole of sigils and all that stuff that I didn't really realize. I didn't know that much about, so it was interesting.
I must have deleted it off of my computer. Here, let me try and find it on my phone up here. But it's essentially, I was in the backyard in Colorado, and we were having like a little get together from like friends and people to come hang out. And a lady brought a infrared night vision goggles with her. And I was like, all right, let me check them out. Let me go and look and see if I can see anything in the sky. So I have the night vision goggles in my hand. I'm looking up in the sky, and I see this, what I guess could be described as like a craft, but it's like a half boomerang shaped craft. It's kind of like what Kenneth Arnold was talking about, what he's seen, because Kenneth Arnold's never said that the shape of that's another misconception about ufology and the Kenneth Arnold case. Arnold never said that the craft was saucer in shape. He said that it flew like a saucer skipped across water, and then the reporting of it from the newspapers and the outlets misquoted him and said that the shape of the craft was saucer shaped when he never said that it was. Okay, here is the video. Can you see it on your screen?
I can. Let me add the stage and make it big.
Okay, so this is me filming this in my backyard. I'm the one that's on. You see it coming down from the left hand. It's like a boomerang, and I'm saying at this point, I'm like, there's something strange or something weird in the sky. It looks like a boomerang. I don't know what it is. It kind of looks like a flying V in the sky, and then I try and follow it as long as I can.
Where do you live?
Well, I don't live there anymore, but this was filmed in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Yeah. I had a guess, but that won't be it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a military city, college town and all that. So I don't know what this is, but I tried to post it online and trying to get some traction for it, and no one seemed like that they were even interested. But it's really big, and I was asking people as I was filming it. I was like, I'm seeing something on the night vision goggles. Can you see this with your naked eye?" And they said, "No, we can't see it with our naked eye." So it was literally only showing up on the
Oh yeah.
military grade night
So
vision goggles.
We'll post it if you want.
here's my toy. It's the Psionics Opsin. And that thing is amazing. So, I mean, I can see orbs and other things that I can't, and craft that I can't see with my naked eye. The best thing it does is help me distinguish 2 hours after up to 2 hours after sunset and up to 2 hours before sunrise, what's a satellite and not. But look, folks, if you are out observing and you're within 2 hours of sunset or 2 hours before sunrise, if you're in that window, you've got to rule out satellites because you can see them from the reflected sunlight even when you're in the dark because they're way up high and they can see the sun.
Yeah, that's a lot of things have been misidentified as, the way that it's always been explained to me is if if something's blinking, then it's 100% not a UFO. It's because all things that are blinking is some sort of human-made craft. It's the military and all that, and that's been the whole speculation and the theory from the very beginning with Paul Binowitz, like back in the 70s into the 80s. Like he was literally seen military craft and he thought that it was alien craft because they were experimental type craft that was moving unlike anything that people knew about at the time, and he mistaked all of it for UFOs, and then that became this huge UFO craze in the late 70s into the 80s. Like there's so much misdirection and so much nonsense when it comes to ufology that once you trace it all back, like I was mentioning with Kenneth Arnold, you realize that a lot of it is made up, nonsensical garbage.
Right.
We occasionally use the word bullshit around here, but you don't have to.
Told him because I've only been open with the public about 3 years now. But it feels like high school all over again. Who's the coolest? Whether or not you know anything, it's just about trend. Who's trendy right now?
On social media, the emotional age is about 6.
I thought that was interesting. It was a surprise getting into, I guess people call it the woo, paranormal and alien, I guess. It was just, I didn't expect it. That's all.
Yeah, it seems like it's another layer of the matrix, if you will. I mean, you think that you're kind of getting into the community to listen to open-minded people that have maybe some strange experiences, but then they try and like label everything as if like they know exactly what it is, and that's why I don't really talk about any of the weird or strange things that I've experienced, because then you just get a bunch of people telling you exactly what it was that you experienced when I have absolutely no idea what I experienced. I don't know what that craft was that I just showed on the screen. I don't know if it was the military. I don't know if it was some kind of weird drone. I have no idea. And people love to just tell you exactly what it is. Like they love to relate things to extraterrestrials and aliens when it may not be extraterrestrials or aliens. There might be way more of a better explanation as to exactly what it is than it being extraterrestrials and aliens. But extraterrestrials and aliens is such a big topic right now that people really believe in the core of their being, like religion, and religion has been sucked into the community as well. And everybody that knows about religion, everyone knows what Christianity is. Everyone is familiar with the stories and the miracles, so-called miracles, and the seemingly extraterrestrial things from the Bible. So they immediately want to believe. They want to believe that we're not the only beings in the universe, that there's all these other star systems out there that can sustain life, and there's all these other civilizations and stuff out there. And I'm not saying that there 100% isn't, but exactly. Where is the evidence? I mean, we have telescopes that can see the thousands and thousands of miles into the galaxy.
Yep.
And you
Sure.
haven't run across any physical life out there. Like, come on, like, give me a little bit of a break here.
Yep. So we caught this on our cameras
In our backyard.
in our backyard, and you see this, and you can see the triangle and whatever this is here, and we just kind of put our evidence up and let people throw darts, and it was amazing how much crap we got told that this had to be.
Somebody said it was a moth.
Oh my goodness gracious. I mean, does that look like a moth to you?
It's a special moth.
So furthermore, it was almost midnight. So the only way it was illuminated was it was way up high, close to orbit or in orbit. I mean, what can I say? Yeah, so I understand exactly what you're saying. And I do not tell people I know what stuff is. I say, here's what we got. And it seems weird to me, but you do your own thing.
Yeah, you
But I don't
come,
know what it is.
you draw your own conclusions, and you know, if like I've mentioned it several times on my show, when I was really young, I would be like laying in bed, and because I think a lot of younger kids have had a lot of strange things happen to them whenever they were younger, and sometimes they can remember it and sometimes they can't. But I think everyone has strange and weird things happen to them when they're young, and every night for a really long time. And this is going to sound super woo woo and crazy, but I've mentioned it several times on my channel with other guests that I would see things coming out of the walls at night, and it would surround my bed every single night. Now, if I were to say that to someone that is super into ufology and is into aliens and extraterrestrials, they would immediately say, "Oh, that's the gray aliens. That's 100% the gray aliens. They got the phaser technology. They can come in and out of the walls. You were being abducted. You were being experimented on." And I'm like, no, none of that is my experience.
Right.
I remember absolutely none of that. None of that happened. It for sure was not aliens. I was for sure not being abducted. But that's what the labels that they try and like throw on it. And they try and convince you that that is what you experience. And then they're like, oh, well, don't get a regression. That'll reveal the truth. Well, that's bullshit too. Like when you're getting regressed, you're in a very vulnerable state. The regressor can literally implant thoughts and ideas into your head and make you believe that you've seen something or experienced something that you never even seen.
And you better find a regressor who will not do that, who has a proven track record, or they can foul you up.
And I don't know anybody. I don't know any of those people. I don't think that very many of those people exist, because whenever you're looking for aliens, whenever you want there to be aliens, they're going to find aliens. If I go to an extraterrestrial regressionist, which regression was never even used to find out if you'd been abducted by aliens. It was a therapeutic thing to take you back and help you work through traumatic events and help you with addiction, like quitting smoking, quitting drinking, and drugs and stuff like that. That's what the therapeutic original idea behind regression was used for. And now, but if you went to someone that specializes in extraterrestrial alien encounters through regression, and you already believe that you've had an encounter with an alien or an extraterrestrial, or that you've been abducted, guess what they're going to find?
Yeah.
That's what they're going to find.
Yeah.
They're going to come and say, oh, you were definitely abducted by aliens. And that's, it's the same with like a paranormal investigator. I've explained this a few times on my channel as well. If you have a paranormal investigation team, they go into a house that's supposed to be paranormal or had some kind of weird, strange things happening, and all these reports has happened. They're probably going to come out of there and also confirm what everybody already thought. They're going to come out and say, oh, well, it's for sure haunted. There's something weird or paranormal happening. If you take a Bigfoot field investigator out into the woods and they're looking for Bigfoot, they're going to say that is Bigfoot. If you take an alien investigator or UFO researcher to a place that has a lot of UFO activity, they're going to go out there and they're going to come back and say, oh, yeah, there's for sure a bunch of anomalous activity happening in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
I can
That's the way that it works.
I can name one certified analyst, a therapist, regression hypnotist that I would trust in the entire United States, and that's Yvonne Smith. I've heard her tapes. She never leads. Tell me what happened. What went on? Never a plant. But I've heard others who I won't name. They lead the person right to where the hypnotist wants them to go. It's bad.
That's exactly what Bud Hopkins was doing. And he was world famous for the UFO and alien abduction cases and all that. That's exactly what he was doing. He was leading all of these people to make them believe that they had all these things so he could write books and make a lot of money off of the industry and go to all these conferences and get paid to do all that stuff. And these, I mean, there's the Manhattan UFO incident or the Manhattan abduction incident on Netflix. There's a whole documentary series on it. And his wife, that just passed away last year before the documentary even got released, is on there saying that he's essentially just making all this stuff up, that he's putting these people in some kind of trance-like state, and he's leading them into making them believe that they had all these experiences.
That is a difficult case to put any credence into. It's just hard. Very hard.
And that's
there are a lot of conflicts of interest.
And that one person that you know that you 100% trust, that's one person out of how many?
Oh, I don't even want to count.
Right.
That's thousands. Just like I know one person out of probably thousands of people that I 100% trust that is an incredible energy healer.
Right.
Really?
One person.
Can you say their name, or if not, it's okay. Fine.
No, I don't really want to mention their name, but I do know another person that I 100% believe that is an incredible, honest channeler as well. So it's like one solid person out of the sea of like garbage. It's like a needle in a haystack to find these people.
Right. They make a lot of money. I mean, tons and tons of money doing this.
Yep.
We know some people that do it, and we know some people that go to these people and they spend thousands of dollars and nothing happens. It's crazy, but it's all in the hush hush. You know what I mean? Nobody really says anything. So
that's right. It's a huge industry. It's a huge industry, and people selling products that don't work.
Yep.
And then, like making up things like Atlantis sand, like quantum entanglement gel, like all these nonsensical things. And that's fine. Like if people are gullible enough to believe that stuff and actually pay them money, like it is what it is. But it's just like the people that are actually out there that are trying to be honest and have integrity and, has a good head on their shoulders and like works at this stuff, like completely get overlooked, and then they get trashed and like thrown through the ringer, and it doesn't make any sense. It makes zero logical sense. That it should be the opposite way around.
Right.
Totally. Okay, so are you into any kind of cryptid research at all?
Well, I just had Brooke Moreland on recently, and she's a field investigator for Bigfoot and cryptid research. She lives in Florida, and she supposedly found a Bigfoot or Sasquatch print. And I'm kind of on the fence with the cryptid stuff. Like, it kind of falls into the same realm as like extraterrestrials and aliens and stuff. It's like, why is all the footage super blurry? Why is there not any clear footage of this kind of stuff? And as a filmmaker and an editor, it's like, well, the only reason that this stuff would be super blurry and look like it's filmed on a freaking early 2000s flip phone is if they're inserting something into the video and that they're trying to cover it up. That's the same with UFOs and supposed alien stuff. And there's some caveats to that too. Some of it might be really quick. They have to whip out their phone and it's not focused properly, but like none. You're telling me as many people that has claimed to see Bigfoot or things that are in the woods or any of these cryptids, we have yet to have any clear 100% good footage from it. And that's just me being super skeptical on the entire thing. And the way that it changes as well, and the way that it evolves is another red flag for me. Like once people don't see or have the physical evidence for something, then they switch and they change the narrative to, oh well, it's interdimensional, it's it's extra dimensional, they're all around us but you just can't see them. That type of thing. The mythology of it then changes, just like it's changed with ufology and UFOs. It was a physical craft before, and now it's no longer a physical craft. Now it's an interdimensional craft, to the way that it can change and evolve. And I'm like, well, if our technology that we're currently using evolved at the rapid pace that some of these people talk about, the way that UFOs have evolved from a physical craft that goes around and can come from another planet and then somehow crash and land on our Earth, and then now it's like this has this ultimate ability of like cloaking technology and the ability to warp in and out of space time and go interdimensional and like have all these crazy aspects to it just 60, 70 years later. If any of our technology that we use on a daily basis evolved the way that supposedly that technology evolved, we would be living in a Jetsons type universe.
Well, here's what I think. I think I don't know the answers. Is just what I think. I think we're kept in the shadows with a lot of things. I know I've had an experience where I saw something cloak in a cloud. I didn't even know that could happen. And it was this weird, huge ship that had a bunch of pipes under it. It was just weird. It was strange. And a helicopter came and showed a spotlight. The government got involved. So that opened my eyes to a lot of things. But then when I talk about that to like his friends that are experts, they all say, "Oh, it's the government." I'm thinking, well, how do you know? I think it was a craft. I'm not 100% sure, right? But how do they know it was just government? So I do believe there's lots of weird stuff out there, but I'm leery of a lot too. So it's like it's in the middle. There's half of my brain that's like into all this shit, and the other half like, well, calm down. Let's think about this. So.
Let me ask people that want to ask questions to type them in capital letters in the chat, and I'll pose them to Ryder. You have another question?
No, I'm enjoying this.
Oh, this is great.
You can talk about whatever you want. This is fun. So.
No, it's so strange when you look back through the history of ufology and the way that it's changed and evolved. And I think their original question had revolved around cryptids, and I'm still really on the fence about cryptids, because some people's stories are really like, if they made it up, then they're a really good actor. But another pitfall of these things is some of this stuff happened when people were like really young, and we know that people's memories are like very fallible, and things could have happened that necessarily didn't happen, or things that happened that they don't remember. And it becomes this weird teeter-tottering effect of like what was real and what was fiction and what was made up. And because we know whenever trauma happens to us on an individual level, I mean, they know this in the MK Ultra programs, that when trauma happens, your brain will try and disguise that trauma with something that like something that's comfortable to you. And instead of it being something really bad that happened to you in real life, you could have turned that into something extraordinary to cover up the facts so that you don't remember that super traumatic thing that happened to you. I mean, that's just a default thing that happens in our brain.
That's true. Oh, okay. I have a question after.
Yeah. So we covered this partially, but do you have anything else you want to add on? What are your thoughts on Bigfoot?
I think that it could be legit. I mean, how many we know about so many other supposed human beings that were like us, that has been found throughout history, that doesn't have the exact same, like the Homo pithecus and a lot of those types of creatures that are similar to us but has a different DNA structure to us. And I guess it's just if you want to believe that they can live for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Like if they can, then yeah, it would make sense that they're still around. Or maybe they're somehow, repopulating, or that there's a male Bigfoot and a female Bigfoot, and then they essentially repopulate the way that we repopulate as humans, and that could be how. But there's been a lot of historical record of these types of entities that have existed throughout time, so it's hard to put a definitive answer on it. Trump released the Bigfoot files, and then we'll know everything that the government knows on cryptids, because there's so many people that think that a lot of the cryptids are also government experiments that has gone awry, or that's escaped these types of facilities, or that they've kind of let out into the wild to kind of do their own thing.
We have one audience member that takes it very, very seriously. I wanted to prove to you how seriously he takes it. Oh, sorry, wrong one.
Loretta. Scotty boy. Scotty boy is always coming in with the jokes. Good old Scotty boy.
He's doing
Love
good.
you, bud.
Okay, so let's change topics a little bit.
Well, can I
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Ultra.
Yeah, I was about to go there. Anyway,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go.
Our friend Brian was on last night, and we were talking about that, and I asked him, "Do you think that they're still doing MK Ultra? And do you think they're doing it to us in a more gentler way through, subliminal shit and, so."
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's what the media is used for. Just like how back in the 50s, the United States government was essentially allowed to assassinate world leaders, right? And they were allowed to do that. That was, I don't know how they were allowed to do it, but eventually Congress kind of came back and was like, hey, like, you can't do that anymore. You can still do evil shit all that you want, but you can't be going out and assassinating world leaders. So then they found other ways to do it, but without actually, I mean, they kind of technically do still do coups and assassinations, but it's kind of under the guise of something else. And it looks like it's, this rogue person or whatever, which also I think gets into some remote viewing stuff as well, and remote influence, which I think is another aspect and another really deadly thing that can be used in a remote viewing sense. But just like how everything evolves, just like how I was talking about that the technology of these supposed UFOs dramatically shifted and changed, and just like how our technology from going from, rotary phones to car phones to cell phones to home, and it just keeps going on and on and on. I also think that MK Ultra also evolved, and it turns into, something else that's a lot more subtle, that can't really be pinpointed down to a singular thing, but it's done a lot through symbolism. It's done through messaging, the way the neuro linguistic programming, the way that people phrase things, the way that people say things. It's very coded, but it is essentially the same message, and they've figured this out on an individual basis for the public and everyone. And then they started doing it more on groups of people. They're like, okay, well, how can we socially engineer this group of people over here that is maybe not a part of the group as a whole, but is like their own individual. They have their own ideology and their own belief systems that's kind of split off from the mainstream group of people. Sort of like the Jim Jones incident, where he was taking these people to, and it kind of seems like that's the way that it went. So it's like, let's figure this out on an individual level, then let's scale that up a little bit. Let's see what we can do with small groups of people, and then let's increase that a little bit to get it to a little bit larger groups of people. And then once we got that down to perfect, and we know exactly how to do that, then we can just expand it to everyone all at once, all at the exact same time.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
You got evidence of that through 2020. I mean, that's essentially exactly what happened.
So everybody and their brother is talking about what weird stuff is going on at CERN with all the crazy links about and talk about weird cult-like things being done inside. What do you find in yourself and in your listeners about CERN?
Well, the whole CERN ritual thing started from a found footage fake film done by a bunch of college students at CERN where they were dressed up in these robes, and it was kind of like a Blair Witch Project style film or like a paranormal activity thing where it looks like it's real but it's really not real. And that's where a lot of the ritual stuff began, because people, they did this found footage student art project at CERN, and they filmed this there was this guy that was up on a balcony, right? And he was kind of peeking around the corner, and he had his video camera up there. And then a bunch of these people walk in like black robes. And then they lay a girl down on the ground. And then one dude has a knife, and it looks like he's getting ready to like stab her and all that. And that's a 100% fake. It's a fake footage, but that got everything rolling on everything that's going on at CERN. You know, they're like sacrificing, they're opening up portals and to other realities, and the guard particle. So it kind of became this this thing that's kind of like steeped in lore. And then CERN will pop up like every other year or so when they're getting ready to turn it on again or run some tests. Then it becomes a popular thing within the community as well, just like HARP did. HARP came, but no one talked about HARP for a really long time, and then all of a sudden, when these hurricanes were about to hit Florida, everyone was like, "Oh, it's HARP." And I mentioned a year ago on my show with Ryan Gable, I said, because I hadn't heard anything about HARP in like 5 to 6 years. HARP was a really big one, like back in the mid 2000s. It was like everyone was talking about HARP, how it's a weather modification facility up in Alaska, right? And then it just went quiet. No one talked about it for a really long time. And very recently, I had Ryan Gable on, which Ryan Gable is the host of the Secret Teachings radio show. He's a veteran radio host. He's been doing it for a really long time, like 10 years. And I brought him on, and I was like, because we were talking about the Bermuda Triangle as well, because everyone kind of forgot about the Bermuda Triangle. Like, no one talks about the Bermuda Triangle in Florida anymore. But there's several triangles now. There's the Great Lakes Triangles. There's the Alaskan Triangle. There's another triangle that Brooke Moreland brought up on my channel the other day. I'm not familiar with that one, but there's several triangles, but no one talked about the Bermuda Triangle. So we decided to do a show on the Bermuda Triangle just because no one had said anything or mentioned it for a really long time. And then I mentioned in that show, I was like, why don't we bring up HARP again? No one talking about HARP. And then what do you know, 6-7 months later, everyone's yelling and screaming HARP with this hurricane that was getting ready to hit Florida.
I have an embarrassing admission to make. I almost never discuss HARP because I worked on it and helped build it. And it modifies things that happen in the ionosphere. So it is doing some stuff with the ionosphere. It's heating it up and stirring it up so we can study the ionosphere. But because it does heating up in the atmosphere, all the weather is 2 layers below that in the troposphere. But people, you know, not everybody's trained, not everybody thinks about it correctly. So if they're stirring up the atmosphere, it's causing all our problems. So I just don't tell because I don't want to deal with it.
Well, I should bring you on my show then, and we can talk about it, because that is I like to bring people on that has 100% personal experience and knows about these things, instead of letting the community just go out there and run with it on a bunch of made up garbage, and that they've never been there and you have no idea how HARP even works.
So the United States government and other governments use the ionosphere as a major source of communications capabilities when the satellites and other things don't work. In other words, they have all sorts of fallbacks, and the ionosphere is one. And they wanted to study its properties so they could predict when and how it would be usable and what they could expect of it. And it's just this is a standard set of science that's done all the time, and it's just hard to know your hard work has led to one of the biggest conspiracy theories on the planet.
That's wild. That's really good. I love that type of stuff because people
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
I'm
people don't
happy.
know this stuff. They don't know that that's what it's for, and that's what they were using as a communication technology. That in case satellites go down, then they have that backup to use as communications. You know, they have no idea because they're just listening to what people say about it on the internet and what they think that it is, which leads to confusion and it leads to these beliefs that they will hold on to no matter what. And anybody that's challenging those beliefs, they attack and ridicule and talk bad about.
Yeah, I mean, Dean Miller has it right. 100% open horizon, but it's a special type. Your signal goes up and bounces straight back down. So it's like you get off the ionosphere, you get a wide area network. And that's near vertical incident signaling is ages old. It's the work using it started in the 40s. And so it's just people have gotten used to the internet and cell phones and all this other stuff. So it seems strange and everybody's worried about global warming and government conspiracies. So what can I say? It's one of those things. I would be happy to come on and help try to debunk it.
I would love that. Let's set this up. Let's set that up after we're done because that's a huge one that has become such a commonplace staple conspiracy within the community that I really 100% believe needs to be exposed.
Well, nobody ever comes out and explains it to the public. Nobody comes out.
Because the government loves conspiracies.
They love it because it distracts you from what they're really doing.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. We're on the same page there.
Skyburners, full wave loop antennas, built many of them. Dean knows I'm a amateur radio operator.
But if you were talking to a true believer in HARP that they're manipulating the weather right now, I would be saying that you have no idea what you're talking about, even though you work there. He's like, oh, exit this call right now. I'm just saying HARP is a no weather modification energy steering device that can control hurricanes and the weather.
Okay, so look at this gorgeous, sweet, kind face, and I have this gorgeous, sweet, kind face girlfriend. We're just gorgeous. How could you think that these two gorgeous faces and nice people would do anything nasty with 5G? And what I'll tell you now is I founded Federated Wireless, which is a 5G cellular communications company. It's not nefarious.
That's another really big one as well. The whole 5G nonsense garbage. It was all promoted and went around the whole 2020 thing, and the people were out destroying freaking 5G towers. And I'm like, yo, you guys are stupid. Like, you know that those 5G towers also supply 3G, they also supply 4G, like
LTE, yeah. 5G, and it's going to go on. Look, it's. This got known and I got invited to come into a space, and the space, I just said, sure, I don't mind. Came in and I was mobbed by some conspiracy theorists who thought 5G was damaging them. Why in the hell would I be so evil? I just calmly said, no, you're wrong. Here's what this is and what it did. And I stood it for about a half an hour and told them I had to go.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you're actually telling the truth and to the best of your knowledge. It doesn't matter because it's all about the most crazy speculation, hairy-fairy, upside down land theory that you can possibly think of that is more than likely 100% pure fiction that someone made while they were sitting on the toilet.
You get more radiation from your microwave than you get from a 5G tower because of the height above ground the antenna is and its directionality toward the horizon. Okay, listen, it's been a great show. I love this.
hold on. Tell everybody.
Oh yeah, tell everybody I'm going to go there.
Okay.
But no, just let it hang around after we leave the air and we'll work out the deal. But please tell everybody your last thoughts, whatever you want them to remember.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it. It was an amazing conversation, really fascinating, and I'm glad that I shared it to my audience as well, so they would have a bonus episode to listen to this week. And yeah, you can find me on Raised by Giants on YouTube, any and all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast. And if you would like to reach out to me personally, you can find me on Twitter X at Raised by Giants 8 and on Instagram at Raised by Giants Pod. And please check out my documentaries. The first one you can watch for free on Amazon Prime, JFKX, Solving the Crime of the Century, and my latest documentary on Stanley Kubrick. And we dive into a lot of the things that we talked about here tonight on that documentary, Clockwork Shining, Kubrick's Odyssey 3. So thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
One more conspiracy theory. One more. In 1969, as an amateur radio operator, I traveled 60 miles from my home and went to another amateur radio operator's house who had a very large, privately owned dish in his backyard. And we pointed that dish at the moon and heard the astronauts directly from the moon. And with that, I want to wish everybody a good night. Thank you for being here. And we love doing these shows and hope you'll come back for our next one. And we'll see all of you on next week. Thank you for being here.